Hey y'all, I'm Emily Peebles and I'm the librarian here at Forest Lake Elementary School. I just wanted to talk to you guys for a minute about the importance of the role of the school librarian as a community partner. Now, oftentimes, I know before I was a librarian, I really thought, okay, I'm just going to be working with the kids, the parents, the teachers. But there's a lot of outreach that goes into being a school librarian that's often not overlooked, but there's just so much that goes into it that's just another thing. So one of the most important things I feel like that I do at the beginning of every school year is really research about our children and our local community, because there's a few things that I do with that. That lets me know, obviously, our population as a school. That lets me know our population as a community, and that also gives me insight to how much I'm really going to have to support the families that have books at home versus the families that don't have books at home. And obviously one way, I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but one way I do that is through making sure we have a significant ebook collection. That also allows me, doing this research at the beginning of the year, also allows me to gauge parental involvement and community member involvement and how much I can count on that during the school year. One way I do that with parental involvement is at our meet and greet every year. I can talk to the parents. There's sign-up sheets for people that want to come in and help, people want to do read-alouds, people that want to be mentors. So there's all sorts of opportunities for parents as well as outer community members to come in and really help with the library program. Another thing that really helps that's unique, well, not unique to Forest Lake, but I'm fortunate to have Forest Lake, is a flexible library schedule, meaning I create my own schedule. I mean, there's times obviously when I have to help do certain things that are in a certain time slot, but for the most part, my schedule is totally open so that I can meet with teachers, so that I can do research with classes, so I can do story times, so I can really help these kids with research skills, so I can help them check out just right books. I mean, the list goes on, and I'm super, super fortunate and thankful that I have that opportunity, because that really allows me to maximize the potential that my job has by being able to get to the kids, the teachers, the parents, and the community. So that's one thing that I'm super thankful for. One really important community partnership to have is that with the public library. So there's a lot of things that we go to the public library for. One of the biggest things is that we do a library card initiative every year. So the public library gives us how many ever library cards we request. Typically, I do about half the school population. And that way I can send those home with kids. If we are obviously non-corona times, we're able to have family nights, and you could have a member of our librarian from the public library come in and actually give out those library cards. So you've really got to have a strong relationship with your public library. That also lets you invite guest readers. I've been able to have librarians from the Richland Library come to read to the kids, and it helps with having special annual events. We get to participate in certain things. Obviously, lately it's been all virtual, but story times, things like that with published authors. There's also here the Augusta Baker's Dozen in the spring, where storytellers come. And because of the partnership with the public library, that is free to us. So it's really, they're a great resource and an integral part of obviously any school library community and any school community, because just of all the resources that are available there. As we know, schools don't get the most amazing funding. So one thing that I've really had to do is reach out to local businesses, and not so local businesses, but to create partnerships there, because one way that I can afford to get new books is through these programs. So I know you guys are probably familiar with Box Tops for Education, where we collect them, send them in, you get 10 cents per every box top. It really adds up. We also have partnerships with local grocery stores. We have Lowe's, Kroger, and Publix. And so I've just had to work with those stores, whether it be through email, calling, going in, whatever it is. And those partnerships have really allowed me to acquire more books, because every time somebody swipes that card, the school gets a certain percentage back. So that was a really easy and quick partnership to create, but it's really been lucrative. And one thing with that too is our school does a run every year, and Lowe's supports us in that too. So we've actually gotten more partnerships out of it than just the one with the library. Another way I reach out to the community is through local churches and organizations. So here at Forest Lake, we have a really, really amazing mentor program. One of our local churches is really strong in supporting us with that. So we've got, I think right now, I've probably got about 45 mentors or so. Over the past 6 years that I've been librarian, we've had as many as 60. Numbers fluctuate, obviously. But this program is incredible. Typically, the mentors come and read with one child, two children, how many ever they choose, for 30 minutes a week. Now, so like I said, a lot of these people come from a certain church, but then a lot of that then ends up word of mouth. So they'll get their friends, and all of these people live in the community, and they also are able to see that church also then supports students that live in a certain apartment. And so they get to go and do community outreach. So these children are not only seeing their mentor at school, but they're seeing them at their house, which makes it that much more meaningful and that much more special. So definitely a huge support system in the community is through churches, and also just through getting volunteers from the community. So I've had past parents or just people that wanted to come volunteer, come in the library and help shelve books. They've come and they've helped me do little managerial tasks, things that I might not always get the time to do until the very end of the day. I've reached out to the community for help from them just to make it through the day. So those are some really strong and important partnerships to have. Creating opportunities for the community to contribute to the library is another big part of what I do. One of the ways I've done this in the past is through seeking out local grants. In our district, we have one that it's not anymore, but it was called the Sparkleberry Grant. And I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, I did that and wrote the grant, got the funding to get a maker space and all the materials needed for it in the school library. Super easy. The community is typically willing to help you with things like that because they get the importance of the school library. Another one that is nationwide and probably worldwide is Donors Choose. I wrote a Donors Choose, shared it on my personal Facebook, on, I want to say Twitter, and I wrote that one to get some kid-size furniture in the library, just some comfy furniture. So that was a really good one, and those are easy, I say easy, but easy ways to get additional funding just anytime throughout the year. And like I said, typically the community is more than willing to help you out as long as you explain what you're doing. I provide pictures after the fact, just so they can see what their efforts went towards. Creating an online presence for remote access to the school library is super important. This allows students, obviously, parents, teachers, community members, all of these groups of people that are integral within the school to be able to access the library remotely and not even during school hours. So the way I do that, most importantly, is through having a really interactive website, which I update very frequently with pictures, with things for the kids. So another way that I do this is through Twitter. I have the library Twitter. And so making sure that you have that social media presence and just having an online presence through the website in general lets the community stay active within what the school is what's going on in the school. And also back to what I said with the community providing funds, they get to see the pictures of the things that they help support being used by the children. And that 9 times out of 10 is exactly what they want to see. And then that will encourage them to participate again in these types of things in the future. Hosting events in which the community can come and participate in the school library is another thing that I spend a lot of time doing. The easiest way I do this, honestly, is through the school book fair. As you can see in the picture, I ordered a huge vinyl sign that goes on the front gate of the school, usually a week before the book fair comes so that everybody can know it's coming. And then we host the school family night. And the community is allowed to come to that. And then also I do a grandparents and grandfriends event during book fair week so that people that may not get the chance to come other times throughout the week can come during that time. So making sure that the community knows that they are allowed, or they're encouraged rather, to participate in these kinds of events really, I feel like, helps tie the students, the school, the families, the parents to the community as a whole. So the overriding theme of everything I do is honestly being an advocate for my students, for my families, for my parents, for my teachers, for the community, being an advocate and getting out there to make sure that the community knows what's going on within the school library and just within the school in general, but making sure that my students have what they need, whether it be through funding, whether it be through mentoring, through events, whatever it is. That is my number one goal within the school library, is to be an advocate for my students, families, and for the community overall. It does take some time and it does take some planning, but when you see it all pan out, it makes it totally worth it. So that was just a little insight on what I do as a school librarian to make sure that I have community involvement and that the community feels like that they are a partner with the school.